What do I do?
Welcome to the Inforunners, where we have an obsession with cute shoe toys.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously,
My bad.
you've
I'm
got to
sorry,
show that
guys.
face. Show the face.
Show the face? Is that it?
Yeah.
You can't see it.
The tongue thing. It's a cute little toy. Oh yeah, I see the cute pink tongue. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Welcome
it's start disappearing.
Anyways, welcome to the Inforunners. This is episode 38, the second day of the Anniversary Sale, and today it's Aegis Day.
Happy Aegis Day, everyone! Time to
Baby,
get
baby.
hammerheads, everyone.
Baby,
Time to get hammered.
Yeah, it's
Yes! That's a good one. I like
hammer
that
time.
one. Damn it.
But before we get on to the most obvious topic,
The YouTube stream is currently offline.
Is it? No, it looks like it's
we're using
working for me.
Restream.
I'm staring at it. Don't scare us like that,
Yeah,
Dustin.
don't scare us like that. It's like, everything's
Anyway,
fine.
Live
go
stream
on.
offline.
Go on. Nope. It's not.
I think the YouTube people chatting can tell us whether it works.
Yeah, there's. He did the, the.
Yeah,
The title for the
Yeah.
YouTube
You
video
can't see
says Anvil, though. That's why people are thinking it's
we'll change that after.
Yeah.
That's most unfortunate.
Yeah.
But anyway, today's the Aegis Day, and we'll start off with the CCUs because there's not too many CCUs for the advanced CCU guide to go through today. So let's get that done quickly, and we're going to move on to the news.
Okay.
The first one is the Reclaimer, one of the big chips, gone up by $50. A recommendation is to take the Gemini to reclaim a CCU again because it's only $60. And that way you can lock in the price before it goes up, because the Reclaimer will most likely go up another $100 by the time it gets flight ready, and that's going to happen in Q1, Q2 next year, guaranteed. So this will be your last chance to get it while it's still at reasonable price, because extra $50 on top of $350 is still fairly close to the original concept. Do not expect that to be sold again for anywhere close to that amount the next time. So yeah, and again, if you use War Bond, if you use real money in the store, you can gift that to a possible friend if they're particularly interested. So, or someone has joined new. The second ship that's interesting that will increase in price will be the Aegis Eclipse. It's the little carrier flight with the big torpedoes, and this will probably jump up around $15, $20 when it actually goes to flight ready. They have been working on it. I'd really recommend. I really predict that this is going to go to flight ready maybe end of next year.
Yeah, well, Aegis, or the Eclipse, that was the only ship they actually said how much it's going to be when it's flight ready.
I forget how much it was, but they did say, yeah, it will have a price increase.
It's like $100, wasn't it, from memory?
It was $275.
Yeah, $375 when it was flight ready,
Yeah.
I think.
No,
But it's
that's
definitely going to get there.
The current value is $275. I forget if it was $295 maybe for once it's flight ready. I can't remember.
Oh, okay. I remember it being $100 more, but yeah.
Anyway,
I don't
it's I recommend CCUing off the Vanguard Warden to the Eclipse. It's only $25. Yeah, that's right. And you say, oh, why would I do a Vanguard Warden? If you really want to have a Vanguard Warden CCU ready, you can buy that later. The whole idea of price speculation you got to remember is not that I have the CCUs and not that I can use it right away. It's the idea that I spend the least amount of money now in order to take advantage of a price increase later. And that means being patient. So like the Vanguard Warden will be sold many times ahead in future, and you can get that there. And by spending less money, it allows you to buy perhaps more of them, or put your money in other different places. That's why we jump off not necessarily ships that are always available, but ships that are unlikely to move, and ships that are close in price. Anyway, that's all we have for the advanced CCUs in today. I imagine some of the other days we'll have a lot more. So I guess we'll move on to What happened today?
The Reclaimer.
Reclaimer.
Yes. They're finally getting up the last little bit, and it's going to be coming out soon. Hopefully.
Hopefully, almost like it will. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm one of those people who hoped that it was gonna be Blight Rain 3.0, but I mean that's like really far fetched as far as something. But
I don't think it's.
I'm not really.
They said it's like in final out. Like, it's,
But what are you going to do in 3.0 with it, though? It's like just look pretty.
Yeah,
Same thing you do with this stuff.
It's
Same.
yeah. What else would you do with the Starfarer? You just want to, oh, cool, big ship. But I can't wait for the Acclaimer because it's like a beautiful big ship, not just like. Here's a brick for you. Have fun.
I'll fly a brick.
I think it'll be a little bit like the Starfarer. You're kind of just flying it because you can and it's big until they get the mechanics.
Exactly. But it's beautiful.
It has that alien vibe, and that's what I love about it.
No, it's just.
the Reclaimer? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Think about the video they released not too long ago, where they had the Reclaimer there, the floodlights and everything, and then they had the crew going into this alien vessel.
Oh, yeah.
That is totally alien.
That was pretty. Oh, okay. I misunderstood you. Like alien, like Isperia, like it was made by Alien Tech vibe, not like the actual
alien
movie
as in
franchise.
Yes.
That's awesome.
When I read the concept pitch for the Reclaimer back when it first came out, this is a couple of years ago now, the imagery I got in my head was the... have you ever seen Lost in Space, the one from like 1996 or something?
Yes.
And that scene where they pull up alongside the other ship that was sent after them because they've been in some kind of time warp, and there's all those little spiders on that ship. It reminded me very much of that. So you'll be going into ships and you have to search through them to make sure there's nothing dangerous in them before you can reclaim them, so you don't know what you're going to find on there. So I think it had the best of like industrial mixed with exploration, and that's what really sold me on the Reclaimer, and that's probably why it's my favorite ship. Was the gameplay it was going to bring was a cross-pollination between making money and exploration at the same time, and I can't think you'll run into that type of things in normal exploration as much as you will on a Reclaimer. Just that's my 2 cents on that ship. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, the one thing the ATV confused me on is like, why do they have hamster wheels? Literally.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? It's like a computer control console. You don't have to add motion to it.
It's like the only thing that simulator sets nowadays are missing. It's like they're just missing the motion. I'm like, well, there you go. At least, in 1,000 years or so, we figured it out.
I think it's also they do it for visual, because I think that's going to look kind of cool to walk through that corridor and just see people.
It's like an exercise figure. It's moving them around like.
Well, that's what one of the guys. Yeah, well, that's one of the developers said. He said it's kind of cool to walk in there and sort of like just see these hamster balls or these things spinning, and I'm like, I guess.
One thing I would have liked to have seen that they haven't turned off yet in regards to the Reclaimer is the little snub or the utility vehicle called the Cutter. I'm very interested to see how that's going to turn out.
We saw that on the exterior sort of attached to it, didn't we? Or was...
No, I didn't notice it if that was the case. If you can show me an image later, that'd be awesome, because I'm really keen to see what that's like, and I think it's a type of utility vehicle that might possibly be used in other vehicles as well, especially if they make, say, a smaller salvage vessel. It seems like something that would be cross-pollinating and might work with others as well.
It's interesting seeing the drone room all nice and finished. You can really fit a lot of drones in there. They're not quite as big
I actually want to see the drones. Like, I want to see them... the drones, and I actually want to see them working. I want to know how those work, not just guess how they work.
We saw them folded up, but we didn't see them actually in a collapsed out state.
It's actually, believe it or not, even in that flat state, is the first time we've ever seen a drone 3D modeled. Previously, before this, we'd only seen grey box animations and concept pictures. So it's still cool to see that that's another thing that we know they've worked on that they haven't kind of told us about.
Yeah.
Should we move on to the next ship then?
Yeah, the Idris. Idris went on sale. A magical 5-year insurance for Idris and Javelins. There's a number of people who probably freaked out about that, and certainly sent a number of concierge tickets almost immediately after they paid their money. And
as they should. I mean, a ship worth that much, and I mean, the CIG does explicitly state that anything over $1,000 automatically has LTI. But it was confirmed by a dev eventually that that was a mistake. It was just like a placeholder or something. I don't know exactly, but yeah, see right there. Bam. Proof.
Which is a nice thing because honestly, anyone that spends that much on a ship should not have to risk ever losing it, because that. Could you just imagine how many people would be irritated? Oh well, I just lost
table foot.
Right.
Yep.
Red got his javelin, and what he said in his support ticket was, I just paid over 3,000 Australian dollars on a ship, and you better damn give me LTI on it.
No, I really hope I can find it. But it was funny because it wasn't even that. It was something very simple and common. Not red, white, yellow at all, and I thought it was just hilarious because the way he says it, it's like behind that calmness, it's just like a fucking tornado, just like what the fuck. Yeah. Yes,
they didn't really show any of this ship because they're obviously saving it for the holiday live stream, as he mentioned in ATV. So I'm really, really looking forward to the end of the year stream. I don't know about you guys, but
it will be revealing.
I don't know how to word it.
How far they are. It shows the progress of where Squadron 42 is.
I expect something amazing, because why would they be holding on to this for so long if it wasn't something that was worth revealing? And that's definitely going to be interesting. And I'm actually hoping that at some point they at least let people walk around in it once it's ready. Even if you can't actually fly it, just being able to walk in it would be amazing to see what it looks like.
The Aegis has been finished since this time last year. They have already stated that they're not going to release it because it's such an integral part of Squadron 42.
Well, why not put a hangar?
People asked that question last year, and they've turned around and said it's because they don't want to give away the surprise of exploring it in Squadron 42. That's pretty much it. So, rather than
the surprise of getting lost in Squadron 42, trying to find your way around.
Yeah, probably. But I prefer the slow trickle of news rather than just a big gush of surprise, because it's over very quickly. I rather something that keeps me satisfied for a longer period of time. But that's just me.
You'd rather a 5-course meal than dessert.
Yeah, pretty much. Or 5-course meal rather than one big frickin' dessert. Yeah.
The second sale for the Aegis has gone by along with the Javelins. So apparently they all sold out much more quickly than the first allotment. So,
the second one. Well, yeah, because people are like, what was sold today? Oh shit, let's get on that. What's the next time? That's probably why.
It's funny because the Aegis were up for quite a while before they sold out. I remember.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was like 20, 30, 25 minutes maybe.
Okay.
So the second time it just went boop.
You mean time to actually get the address instead of be like, oh, well...
It might have been website technical difficulties. I admit the first 20 minutes of the website being up was just like grinding to a halt and everything else, so
CIG needs to upgrade their servers. Seriously. Upgrade those servers, because they have all these sales, and then they're like, well, grinding to a halt. I'm like, seriously, just buy a server for a couple days.
Well, if they could even buy extra capacity for 1 hour every day. Come on, I mean, you got Amazon buddying up to hear you, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Just, we need 1 hour every day at this time.
You got Intel, for crying out loud, too.
Speaking of other congested stuff, did you guys get around to doing the observation test, by the way? Most people can do it yesterday. How'd you guys go?
I failed the first 2 questions the first time because I didn't realize there was a time limit.
First go, 10 out of 10. So, yeah.
Nice.
I think the lowest the timer got for me was 11 seconds. So, and the hardest one for me was actually not the Herald, because I hadn't seen it from above for a while. But, that was the one I struggled with the most. But I still got it for 4 seconds.
Really? Sorry? For me, that was a Rover. That's what I struggled.
Yeah. No. Everything else was easy. I had things like the Polaris and I think the first one was a Buccaneer, so they're all really simple, iconic silhouettes for me.
The Cyclone one was the hardest one, I think, though.
Cyclone? I didn't get the Cyclone.
The Cyclone looks a lot like the Pioneer in some ways, because when you think about it, you have the 4 thrusters, and instead you got 4 wheels. So
from above, it doesn't look like a Cyclone. You think that's got to be a spaceship, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I guess I got lucky then because I didn't get a single land vehicle. I don't. Oh no, you see, I got a Dragonfly. That's right. So
yeah, it's both. But,
I got lucky.
Yeah. No, I did so much, and then I was with one of our buddies. He's a Mousy, and his buddy. He was like, "Could you help me with this observer test?" And I'm like, "Okay."
do we get a badge for it or anything?
Yeah.
At
the end, it told you.
Observer.
Yeah,
okay. I got a gold. I got some kind of gold medal thing I could print out.
Yeah, exactly.
I sent a message to Hayes going, "Is this worth the pixels I print? Like, it's not worth the pixels it's printed on top of it." Anyway,
who won? By the way, I wish you'd at least announced the winner.
No, it goes all week, doesn't it?
Yeah, makes me wonder if it's based on time, like the person that gets the quickest responses and all that, and gets everyone right. Do they like? Is it based on skill or is it
They're
based
not giving
on
many out there?
luck in the draw?
No, it's just like
for grabs.
It's a drawing.
7.
Lottery.
It's a whole 7.
7 out of 1 million point.
Yeah.
Oh wow, 1.5 million people. Good luck.
I thought they could have at least done 1,000. Like they could. CIG's rich enough they could be like, "Here's 1,000 of these guys."
I very realistic. I would have liked to have seen, say, 100 maybe, but yeah.
Well, it's still the odds.
Or 42.
Should we move on?
They should have done 42.
42. Yeah. Yes.
That
I
actually
agree
makes
with that
sense.
one. Yeah.
The javelin.
The javelin is what I was gonna say. Yeah. Should we move on to that?
Yeah, this is the ship they did show us, and it was beautiful. It sort of shows you that there's not much left here on this one either. This is I wouldn't be surprised when we finally get the Idris in game. The javelin will be sitting there waiting right next to it.
I know.
Did we learn any real new information though from last year's holiday live stream when they talked about the javelin? I didn't really pick up on much new info at all. There was some new art, but nothing really.
Nothing really.
No.
Like literally, like I mentioned this before the release of 2.6, they were already saying, "Hey, we're missing," or like, "Yeah, we got one more room to work on in the javelin, and we're basically done with the Idris," So it was like that's a year. But again, like I think Hayes, you were the one that pointed that out, where it said in the notes, waiting for item system 2.0.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that changed everything.
It's still changing. It's not out yet. It's still teething. But I think the real question is, when is 3.1 coming out? I think 3.0 is great and all, but like 3.1 is the first really big functional sort of a patch where all the systems will actually get stuck in or iterated on. So yeah, I can see. Not to mention, all these big ships are coming out all at once. I mean, we've got the Idris, the Javelin, the Reclaimer, the whole Sea. What other ships? All these ships are not going to make 3.0, but they will make the next patch because they're pretty much almost complete. We're going to see a huge influx of big capital ships, the likes we've never done before. Because we've had the Starfarer and the Caterpillar out as big ships, haven't we? Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Capital ships? Yeah. I mean, Polaris.
It'll be interesting to see what actually happens with their release of all these ships. Because I'm wondering if with the Delta Patcher, they're going to release some of these ships as soon as they're ready. Like maybe the whole series. Or if they're going to hold on to them for some just big, oh, hey, look, we have this huge release. That is the question that I have, because I would much rather see Delta Patcher releases every so often.
Yeah, they seem to like their big reveals, CIG, to drum up hype and stuff, so I think you're kind of right in what you're saying. They're going to probably do more.
Well, they don't normally do big release reveals like in the first half of the year, so maybe this is something that'll change this time.
Yeah, hopefully. I like the idea of the quarterly patches, though. Like I've said to you guys a few times, I really hate how once the holiday live streams over this year, we really don't get any tangible news until Gamescom. So there's literally 7 months of the entire year where it's just like a desert, or a drought, I guess you could call it. And it all comes in a really short window of time. It's literally, 2 months between Gamescom and CitizenCon, and then, really a month and a half, and it's Christmas. So it's
they need more communication or something.
Yeah. Oh, I think they need something around March, April, an event. But
April 1st, April's first events. I mean, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Or even the quarterly patches. If they have a live stream or an ATV or something attached to every patch reveal, that would be sweet. I would be happy with that.
Awesome. Well, I'm hoping everything starts speeding up a little bit, because now again they're kind of finishing with 3.0, or now it's trying to get 3.0 working and everything. But I think after that, I think everything will relatively go even quicker, if I'm not mistaken.
So, I think we'll see a lot more alliteration. Sorry, you're going to say, Jason?
I was going to say, I think like the new ship, the Hammerhead, is actually going to be done fairly quickly compared to all the other ships, because it already has all these interiors with the style guide, and I think that's something you're going to notice with certain lines. The lines that have the most stuff, the style guide, and they have all these parts they can plug and chug with, is going to make going through these ships much faster. I expect to see the Endeavor out fairly quickly compared to some of these other large ships too, because there's a lot of missed ships out there. So
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. As they come up with more and more ships, they can use more and more of the new parts of that ship to just remix with the other old parts, and it seems more unique because every little ship will have something different, but none of it's bespoke. It's all kind of shared between them. So that makes a lot of sense. I think the Endeavor will be a bit different though, because it is a fairly large ship, as in it's almost like a mini flying city. So I think the Endeavor will probably be the last one they do, to be honest, because if you look at something like the whole series, that's just a scaling up and down. But the Endeavor is it's a bit. I think the front part will be easy, but the back part with the corridors and the connecting of different hubs and modules, that might be a bit different again. I think.
Industrial wise, though, they have enough experience that there's enough of the assets, because honestly, once you have a table, there's not too much you're going to do with the table. Once you have a bed, there's not too much you're going to do with the bed. So I think a lot of that stuff. Each module
for the Endeavor represents an actual full job and profession. So until they map out all the professions, I can see that the professions will have more impact on what those modules end up being, as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah. And to add to that, really, if you kind of think about the Endeavor with all its different modules, it's really probably 3 times the size it actually is. If you lay out all those modules, it's a really big ship. Like if you consider it the master set, and you kind of put that all together, you kind of go, oh, hang on, it's not just one ship; it's kind of 3 times the size.
It's a very big box of Lego.
Yeah. So that the Endeavor's a loaded gun, so to speak. It's going to take a little bit longer than any ship you really think of, only because of the modules. And
I would disagree with you still on that.
Okay, all right. Well, I think the same thing will happen with ships like the Caterpillar when they actually do get around to working out the modules. Someone stated that in chat too. They've actually got to get around to telling us what the actual modules are, and also the Endeavor also has modules that they've said that more will come at a future date. So it's the type of ship that looks like it's going to be ever expanding, never ending, and the Caterpillar might go down the same path as well.
I want to know about the Retaliator.
I know. Let me change the subject real quick, because Gecko asked this question earlier, but I guess he wants our input. I want to hear their input, guys. Do you agree that we are able to buy Star Citizen starter packs with store credit?
Yeah, you
yes.
can.
Last time, didn't they do Warbond only last time for the cheaper starter packs? But you can buy a regular starter pack.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
There is starter packs listed on this sale, isn't there, at the end?
Yeah.
Pretty sure on the last day. And I also know they always do them around Christmas time. They were $25 at one point, but I think Hayes, you said they're back up to $35 now.
35 for the new credit ones that were sold. So that's without Squadron 42. So yeah.
Well,
at one point, they are war bond, so you have to use cash, I think.
Yeah, for the cheap ones. Okay, I guess we could move into the Hammerhead now that we finally.
There is one thing about
nail on the head. Everything else.
Sorry, what did you say, Dyson?
There is one thing about the Javelin, and that is they completely left out those modules, the 6 modular rooms, which they sold everyone on as actually. other things. What's
got,
in those rooms?
I got beef about this because these developers, it's like did they even pick developers that worked on the Javelin to say what they said? Because, you know, they were saying that the Javelin's not really good at doing other things. It's only really good at one thing. You know, it's not really good at doing anything outside of this, like military or providing force, or, you know, if it's big torpedoes. And I'm like, that's not what it was sold as, and that's not what those 6 huge gigantic modular rooms were sold as. It was sold to industry and companies for more economic activities, and I have a feeling that someone from marketing did nothing but marketing speak and picked random developers. Or, you will do, just get on camera here, you know, you can say this. And there's this disconnect when they do these marketing plays where they want to push one idea only, and just for the sake of it looking good. And I just have to facepalm when I hear that. It's just that they forget the other half of the concept.
Yeah, because they're going at it with a very closed mind, like, oh, it's a military ship destroyer. Of course it's going to be. But yeah, like they didn't mention at all what you were talking about as far as it has these huge modules. Like, hey, you can practically do anything, you know, as long as you can make money or just make a living off of it.
It's got its own built-in hospital. It's got its built-in hangar. And so, like, that's already eclipsing the Hope, plus the 6 modular rooms where you could probably put more beds and facilities and science rooms and who knows what else.
It was an org base, a mobile org base.
Yeah, it's going to be a modular place. You can have cargo, or that's it, just cargo. You've got 6 cargo modules, no more.
Yeah, well, it has a dedicated cargo room for 5,000 SCU and the rooms. So, like, and it's a huge ship now.
Oh, well, let's have a little quick speculation there then, like we did kind of yesterday with the Carrick. What do you reckon some of those modular rooms could be? Obviously, it's science and the hospital, maybe an extension to that, or
everything
cargo.
That an outpost can build a room for, you could probably build the same room for a Javelin.
So really?
If you had agricultural, you could probably do that. If you know, science and research, you could.
Well, like a refinery, you reckon they might have?
Yeah, I reckon that you could do a refinery. Yeah.
I would actually hope so, because the way the rooms are at the bottom, if you could open them up and then equip tractor beam modules on a couple of the gun turrets, that would be really useful.
Space.
Yeah, that would be really useful for salvage, in addition to, of course, the standard marine drop option, which I guarantee you they're probably going to put in that thing.
Oh, heck yeah. Javelin's definitely going to house like your entire marine group and just all your people, you know what I mean? Because you got all that space. And then you can ferry him with a freaking Starliner. You know what I mean? Hey, it can work. You know it could.
I know, it's just that the Starliner, everyone forgets about the poor Starliner.
I know, right? I had to bring it in. I'm sorry, because it's just like this very odd guy back in the corner. You know what I mean? It's like, hey guys, I'm here. I'm pretty too. Like the 600i. Look at me, I'm pretty too. Then it was like 600i. Oh, man. Trade it for a newer model.
I've already bought a 600i CCU to a Hammerhead. I'm not going to apply it anytime yet, but it at least lets me sort of play the waiting game and see if the 600 is worth it.
It's
not a bad idea, actually. That's kind of clever.
It's not. I mean, I did it slightly differently. I just melted the 600i and bought that, so that way it's still in my buyback, so if I change my mind.
Actually, that's a better idea. I like his idea more. Well, there's a quick question then, while we're on that subject of price. Where do you guys think it sits in the price range? Do you think it's too expensive, or is it too lenient, or
just too expensive?
What about
I think the War Bond.
I reckon the War Bond's reasonably priced, but when you're using store credit, it feels a bit.
The War Bond should be the store credit price, and you should have it down, because I think it should be competing with the Carrick, not actually trying to supersede the Carrick, because the Polaris is the big brother, which you can get for just a little bit more, that does everything better and will kick it from this side to that side, and it's gone.
I tend to agree. When you look at it from a functionality standpoint, it doesn't seem worth $550. I could see $450. And one of the things I've put in the show notes that we'll probably go over here is I think the ship has a lot of wasted space. If you look at there was screenshots I showed on ATVs of the internals, a lot of it is just corridors. like they're just corridors that go to turrets, almost like on the Starfarer. And each one of us has been on the Starfarer at one point, and it's almost a waste of your time trying to walk from the cockpit to the.
I agree with you to a point,
turrets
but
back.
Unlike the Starfarer, it is so easily laid out. You will never get lost in this ship.
No,
it's too easily laid out.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say, and it is too easily laid out, like Dyson said. But one of the things is they wanted this on the concept. They wanted this concept of negative space, and I think unfortunately, when you look at it, you could literally cut the ship up into thirds, where the third of the ship is actually the content. Then there's this big negative space, and then there's just these turrets at the front, or what they call the Hammerhead.
Yeah.
And it
essentially explains why it's hollow in the center, because each side is just two tunnels running down the center.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's just this it's like a noughts and crosses, and then someone's attached a ship to the side of it. It just doesn't make sense.
The biggest issue.
Well, you know how they go first.
The biggest issue about the corridors, like he's mentioning, is the waste of space, but the corridors could easily be fixed by having it expand out and having some small cargo areas for you to, like, if you have ballistic weapons equipped, go in there, the gun retracts, you quickly haul in, then you haul some more stuff there, because there's two people in the turret, so you could actually do that.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see something like, say, an airlock on one side, or, just a room that has like guns in it, like a storage locker or something like that.
Yeah,
like a brig, Well,
or a brig, or even a small medical room or something like that. And even something simple like the captain's quarters, I find that really weird. Like it could have been at the front of the ship. Why is it like if you literally go look at the internal shots of it, and literally most of the ship is just tucked into the back, and then there's just all these corridors. It's like they haven't utilized the space properly.
I think I see what you're saying, because you're trying to make it like self-sufficient. Like right now, it's like it kind of is dependable on someone else, like someone else to take care of its people, to provide that support. Whereas what you're saying, and I agree, it's like instead of having those wasted corridors and that wasted space, like you can have your med bay here, your food here, and everything. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to say this, but on the price, I also agree it's way too expensive. But not only that, because technically you couldn't base the price off, you shouldn't have to base the price off the Polaris, because they explicitly stated the Polaris' high price was too limited. They were saying instead of limiting it like the Idris and Javelin, they wanted to put it really ridiculously high price. So they're saying already the Polaris is not worth $750, but they needed to limit it in some way. So the fact that this is...
think it is.
Yeah, I beg to differ on the Polaris. I think
really? Whoa, no. Dawson and me and you we're talking about that. You convinced me, but I'm saying is what they were implying, not what we found out, but what they're implying, that it was not worth the price. And I know, Dawson, we have to talk about it because that's a funny ass concept. But wait, I'm not done. Now, on that note, I think it should be relatively 350, 400 at max, because again, it's that size, and they didn't limit it. They didn't make it special. The only luxury item they said, and it seems that the positive correlation that it's a focused military. So, let's price rank it. Compared to luxury, let's rank that up. Alien, let's put that up. But
it's the third tax that not a lot of people talk about is the combat tax, and it's on a lot of ships, Sabre, Super Hornet, and all that. Like, and you kind of look at them and go, "Hang on, why is a Super Hornet more expensive than a Freelancer?" Like, it just doesn't make sense. But that's the way.
Vanguard.
Yeah, exactly. Vanguard's another one. Redeemer's another one. They're all kind of anything that's combat focused. For some reason, the price just goes up, and I think it's because they think they're going to be popular, but. You get a lot of people, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of people I know that are very industry focused, and therefore just seeing that little bit of extra tax on a ship like this just turns them off completely. That and the layout of this ship turned me off, and that when I look at it and then I look at the Polaris, I'm like, well, I'd take the Polaris, but that's just me.
Mind you, this is a really popular ship. This is like the ship everyone wanted last Anniversary Sale. They wanted that gunship, and
it would be.
I think this will sell no matter what price they stick on it. Unfortunately,
if they had a hanger on it like the Polaris, I would buy one. But the fact that it doesn't have a hanger, I think it removed it. And we kind of talked about this yesterday when we were speculating on what this ship was, and we've kind of nailed it right on the head. We even nailed the name, which is hilarious. Is that I think its place will be They kind of need to more define what a patrol ship is. But we were talking yesterday about, say you've got some Orion's mining, you could see the ship in the middle and have the Polaris on the outside patrolling. I know it's a patrol ship, but I think for some reason it looks like a weapons platform too. I think it'll be really good for being used like a weapons platform, literally. So if you have it around other ships and stuff like that, especially with I did find the cockpit really cool, the hanging cockpit.
Well, if they stuck a hanger in this would be as big as a Polaris for a start. I'm really happy this is only 100 meters because we needed a smaller 100-meter military ship.
It's not that much smaller than the Polaris, though, is it? It's not. It's only by like 20 meters or something like that. Because I was looking.
Polaris is 155 meters.
They showed images on the ATV, and they had all the Aegis ships, and they had the Polaris there with it as well. And it was literally only just behind it. It wasn't. It wasn't by a great
deal. Wrong there because
It's thinner. It's thinner. The Polaris is fat in the rear. I would say they're. I agree with Execute. It's not much difference. It looks like there is because of how thick the back is. It's just a little bit here, and if you look at it sidewise, that's where the difference is.
I'd say the Polaris is probably wider and taller, but from a top down, so from the back to the front perspective, they are roughly not that different in length. So just
it's probably because you saw that Hammerhead, so like that's already it's literally like a big rectangle, whereas the RSI style of things it's just like a fucking arrowhead. Now, Can we change this to Polaris? Because Dawson, I want you to share the information that you shared with me because that was perfect.
We've still got stuff.
I still got stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we've still got way more on Hammerhead.
Okay.
Way more on Hammerhead.
Here's the big thing. I think this ship would be perfect if they'd fix 3 things without even changing the price of it.
Okay.
First thing, make the range, because this is supposed to be a long-range patrol craft, actually have the range. The Polaris outranges it dramatically. And I feel like that really needs to be fixed to make this a patrol craft. The next thing that needs to be fixed, I think it needs capital class shields. Because currently it has shields equivalent to your Polaris. I think just having one capital class shield would be amazing because it's like, hey, it's a gunship that's built to absorb damage as well because it doesn't have burst. The burst of something like a missile ship.
Definitely looks better armored than the Polaris, which has So I expect it to take a beating.
No, it sucks because you literally, if you study it, the Matrix shows that the Caterpillar has more shielding power than a Polaris.
A patrol too, by its very definition, is a localized engagement. It's on guard duty, so that's why it's not long range.
But they specifically mentioned months. Like the crew will be out here for months. If you watch the
but they're not going anywhere, man. They're outside. They're outside your front door, walking around in circles.
This is a big enough ship. I think we're not going to have any trouble with the range. I honestly don't think it's going to be a short range vessel.
Yeah, the Polaris is a strike craft where this is a patrol vessel. So I think are you implying the fuel or the sustainable foods and stuff like that? Because I think the sustainable foods in that, no problem. I think the fuel is where
the fuel is why I'm concerned because if you look at the fuel tank, it's like, well, I understand that you're patrolling, but you're going to be using a lot of fuel going back, forth, especially if you get into combat. You're going to be boosting a lot. And a ship that's even.
There's no reason why you can't have that out in the field as like a weapons platform, like I was saying, say guarding Orions, and the Star Ferry just comes and tops it up, or it doesn't even need to, or it doesn't even really need to move from its position. As I said, if you use it as a weapons platform, you could literally just leave it there in the asteroid field.
But that's not the way they pitched it in their Top Gear-like episode. They pitched it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, if you fix those things, it would definitely make it worth the price.
We need to put that in the show notes mentally in your head. We need to talk about that human cannon thing at the end of that, by the way, because I've got a feeling it might be a module for the Drake Caterpillar, but we'll talk about it in a minute. The other thing I want to talk about with the Hammerhead is the turrets themselves. I think this lends some credence to the Redeemer. We knew for a while that the Redeemer had that really weird turret that kind of sat on the bottom of it, and then it needed that kind of little suspension bridge thing that came across and attached to the back. That now makes that a reality because that's literally what these turrets do. They're kind of like freestanding out from the ship turrets, and they move around and they have a little same little bridge thing that comes up the back and connects. Do you guys see that now this is an Aegis ship and so is the Redeemer, that they will carry over to the Redeemer, or do you reckon whole new redesign?
The Redeemer's a unicorn in my mind, and I don't expect any of its actual original concept to make it to actual design when they actually box it out. So I have no bets. I'm not making any bets on that.
But if they do, now we know we've got the turret tech, though, it is possible that...
I think the new turret tech will be more likely to be shown and redesigned to stick some similar design of turrets maybe on the Javelin, because its firing arcs on those are so poor. Just by raising it up and having it on one of those things, each part of the Javelin, like the main 9 turrets that are along the side and on the bottom, if they used that sort of a turret in those positions, it would be rather disgusting.
Yeah, because we should expect the turret designs on ships that are just getting launched at a later date, because they already talked about they're trying to improve turret gameplay, basically they're just trying to make it to where you feel it'd be better to get in a turret versus getting in a fighter. So I also agree where it's probably going to carry forward to maybe more ships or current designs. Maybe they'll extend it but make it still look nice in a certain way and make them work, of course, a lot better.
Was that completely crazy? Because I thought I saw 2 people. I actually think that's actually a really good idea.
There is 2 seats. I saw 2 people in those turrets in the concept, and
yeah,
I have no idea why.
There was a concept
it makes
picture.
Sense, actually.
There was a concept picture on the ATV where there was an African American guy and some white guy, and they were in the turret together. We've kind of need to speculate a bit on what are the advantages and disadvantages, and what would their roles be. I talked about this briefly before the show, but
or maybe one guy feeds him a muesli bar and changes his bedpan.
Yeah, just pats the other guy down.
Yeah.
You're doing okay. Positive motivation.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
Yeah, he empties his bedpan for him, so he just doesn't have to leave the turret.
Could there be a small shield unit on a turret? Think about it. That would actually be really interesting if you actually had someone that's sitting here, running, one person shooting and another person maybe being a shield operator or some sort of radar operator.
He might even be marking targets for him in order of preference.
That's possible.
He could be managing heat. He could be possibly managing shields, as in shield placement, as in, okay, we've got incoming fire from here, so I move the shield to stop.
Or if they're using ballistic weapons, he could be actually reloading the guns and bringing the ammunition in.
Or all of the above. Because the one guy's literally just... If you take shooting out of the equation, what's all the other stuff a turret operator could be doing? And it also begs the question is, how much more efficient does it make it having a second person there? Is it going to make it more confusing, less confusing? Time will tell, obviously.
These... turrets are absolutely nuts. Like, they can fire in it's almost a 270-degree arc in every direction. There's very little occluded with this new turret design setup. I think we suggested bubble turrets before. You know, this is such a great idea. Look what they did. They did bubble turrets. CIG, you were listening, weren't you?
It's World War II. It's directly World War II. Look at the flying.
Have the flying bubble turret.
Yeah. I think the bubble turrets on this ship, I hope they put it on more ships after this, but the bubble turrets alone actually make this ship kind of worth it in a way.
Yeah.
Because like you said yesterday, just you can rotate it 30. I can't even put my hand on the screen. But you can rotate it like 30 degrees, and then all of a sudden, most of the turrets except the one on the bottom come to bear, which is kind of crazy. And we also found out today it's got 2 remote turrets, which makes me think there's one at the front, one at the back. So almost at all times, you have a minimum of 6 turrets coming to bear on your foe.
And missiles. Don't forget the missiles.
Well, missiles will probably, let's be realistically, only from the front. But
I'm actually surprised with a turret that size that they didn't have a missile pylon on each of the turrets.
Oh yeah, that would be
because
cool.
That would have been actually awesome for the second guy there to be the missile operator. Because just imagine if you had like guided missiles on each one, and it's like, hey.
Well, this entire ship was designed from the ground up. They put the turrets down first, and then they designed the passageways, and then the rest of the ship formed around this turret setup. So it's like,
it's the A-10 all over again. They were like, all right, see this big ass gun, guys? Let's design a plane around it. Gecko.
Exactly. But that's a good thing. I mean, like, its purpose is clear, its design was well done. Normally they do it in the reverse. They concept a beautiful looking ship, and then they think out, okay, now where are we going to stick the guns? It's the afterthought. It's like the last thing they do. And so I like the Pioneer, design came first, purpose and function came first, and then they built the rest of the ship around that idea.
It's like they finally have caught on to the fact on how they should actually build them.
Yeah.
And it makes you, like, I probably said this to you before, Hayes, it makes you wonder what the second iteration of the Starfarer is going to be, as an example. One of the first big ships to come out, and they even mentioned in the ATV, some of our ships are really hard to navigate, and people have got lost, so layout's a real prime thing now. But now, like I said earlier, I wonder if the ship is too simply laid out, but...
I like it. I like the simplicity in the layout. I like the fact that you could never get lost, and you can easily find all the turrets, or even be able to see the turret from the other side of the ship and see that it's been blown off, or that's, that visibility, that situational awareness. I think it's great. I like it.
So you are not going to buy a Hammerhead, Hayes. You're going to just have the 600i there, just in case it's shit, and then make an Hammerhead, or you're not, because it sounds like that's your backup plan.
I am committed to getting a number of Hammerheads to match my Polaris, because to be honest, I see them as a team, and it's like you honestly want to run a Polaris with a Hammerhead and vice versa before you want to start scaling up to something like an Idris. So I think this is actually one of the most important ships they've put out in a long time, because we have not had any military ships besides the Redeemer, the Vanguard, and the Retaliator that were in that size class with a firepower rating that's like, the guns on this thing has twice the fixed gun or turret gun play of a Polaris. The difference of Polaris is it has the torpedoes and the landing bay to better round it off.
Yeah.
This is an important ship.
I said to you at the end of last year that's what I wanted the Polaris to be, is like this ship.
That's what a lot of people, even like people like Nubafire, even he thought it was just going to be this big ass ship with a bunch of guns, like a gunship, basically a huge one.
Yeah, I mean, and as I said, if it had the hangar bay, I would have brought it in 100.
Well, let's just go right now because we're at this point in time. Gecko asked, question: Hammerhead versus Polaris, no fighters involved. What's your money on? And
I've said this before, like the Hammerhead is like the anti-Polaris for shooting down the torpedoes, and honestly, you shouldn't want to fight one against the other. Normally, you'd want them to fight on the same team. One's a pitcher, and one's the catcher.
Well, you want a combo of it.
You want a combo, and fighting off against each other like that, it's like you're not getting anywhere, because they're essentially anti each other. It's you're hitting a wall. It's
and even if you did say chuck a fighter in from the Polaris as well, I still don't think the Polaris would be able to distract enough because of the turrets right around it. And, I think the only hope would be is that you somehow get a missile from the a torpedo from the Polaris. It depends on range on it. And as Hayes said, they've mentioned several times that turrets will be the anti-torpedo factor. So this ship being laden with them, they really do cancel each other out. And I do agree with Hayes. I think them working together is going to be a really potently strong combo. I guess the only thing is if
like multiple situations where they show that the Polaris was made to work in tandem with the Hammerhead as a team, because I
just hope they have a similar speed, if you know what I mean.
I hope so too. I hope they're the same speed. It's similar.
Well, I will say if you're looking at actually buying them, the Polaris gives you the more versatility, hands down, because you have the fighter bay, you have guns, and you have torpedoes. And in a fight, I actually think the big thing that the Polaris may have is range and speed. It looks like it has better thrust ratio. Not 100% sure on that, but you also look at range. The torpedoes can lock on at least at 30K.
And that's a size 9 torpedo system. Yeah, that Retaliator, exactly.
Instead of saying like Hammerhead versus Polaris. I think you should compare it like, what if you get a Polaris and a Hammerhead versus an Idris? That's an interesting scenario.
Idris loses.
Also, the other thing is, this ship in the ATV video was pitched as a anti-fighter ship, where we also know the Polaris was considered an anti-capital ship. So together, they can kind of cover the entire spectrum of
or cover each other.
Yeah, exactly. They seem. Someone's mentioned in the chat they're like PP and J. Like, I'm an American, but I totally get what he means by that. They really do go together. What do you call it? Gravy and veggies, or gravies and meat. You know, meat and veggies. But they really do complement each other fairly well. And you know, you chuck in a few fighters. It's a really strong combo, and I can see them working together, protecting a fleet or a cargo run or something like that, or even a base installation. Like I'm trying to struggle to think of a scenario where they won't be super strong against like at least one other ship. That said, let's just chuck this in the mix: Javelin versus those two. I think you'd
need more.
You would need more.
Javelin would shrug off the Polaris while shooting them both. You know, because it's got the long-range torpedoes, it's got the long-range artillery, and, you know, at the end of the day, they're just too far outgunned.
Yep. I seriously think the big thing that you'll see is actually wings. And if you're looking at, like, wings of Corvettes, I would actually see something like 2 Polaris with one of these Hammerheads in there, because the Hammerhead provides anti-torpedo for it, anti-fighter for them, and also provides extra consistent firepower to maybe knock down the shields before all those torpedoes hit, and distract fighters from shooting down things. So it performs that extra little niche role. If you have a wing, you have your torpedoes, and you have that, and I see that maybe being able to take down a Javelin, that wing.
What do you guys think of, say, a ship like the Hammerhead with, say, a Retaliator bomber?
Maybe 2 of them? Yeah, that'd be a little scary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you've also got Polaris.
You got a lot of turrets on your Retaliator bomber too, but that combined with the extra firepower,
I don't think the Retaliator's turrets are going to be anything on even one of these.
No,
turrets.
Exactly.
No. I just mean that the Retaliators, as ships go, well, think of another ship that's got a lot of turrets besides the Retaliator and the Hammerhead.
Polaris.
Well, I don't think anything else with a lot of turrets other than like the Polaris.
Polaris has got them.
That's why. Well, that's kind of why I brought up the Retaliator, because it's the only. It's similar to a Polaris in a way. It's a smaller version of the Polaris.
Yeah.
My only issue is if you're bringing 2 Retaliators, you might as well have a Polaris, because not only do you have better platform for torpedoes, but for this same amount of crew, you're now, for an optimally run ship, you can run a Polaris, and you can even run with the Polaris an extra fighter, and you've now got, it's just better, hands down.
Oh, a lot better. It's amazing. But yeah, that was another argument someone made, like where they're like, oh, well, what am I going to do with this Retaliator now? Because just like what you're saying, but sorry, I'm talking about the Retaliator to a Hammerhead now. It's like with the same amount of crew also, it's like you can have this much better freaking version of that ship. You know, just minus torpedoes, but these insanely powerful turrets. And you're just like, all right, we're done, you know. Does that make sense?
Well,
yes.
A lot of people were going to use Retaliators for PDS. For other ships, because that made sense, and now that's kind of out of there because of the Hammerhead.
Yeah, it was 60 versus 100 meter ship. The Retaliator can't really compare with regards to PDS. It looks a little weak, but I think the main draw of the Retaliator was always the torpedoes. That's why you bring it out, you know. So, as you said, you know, by the time you bring in 2, maybe you should have brought that Polaris anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
The only advantage you have is you can fire a total of 12 torpedoes at the same time, where one Polaris has 4 torpedoes, then has to lock on again and fire 4 torpedoes, because it only has...
So, like, maybe... I think that...
But that means easier to shoot down. The more torpedoes, less likely you are to shoot it down.
I think bigger torpedoes can take a bit more fire before they go, though.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with
I'm
that
hoping.
point. But yeah,
like
Dyson's correct as well with being able to fire 4 torpedoes at once. Chances are they're not going to shoot them all down either.
Exactly, that's the thing, and it just takes one to insanely cripple it. Yeah, not destroy it probably, but at least to cripple it. and that's a size 9.
It's going to cost you to fire those torpedoes too, though.
Oh, Dawson, please talk about it. We talked about this. It was like, what was it? Okay. The conclusion was, if you buy a Polaris, you're paying for torpedoes, and you got a free ship with it.
If you buy the torpedoes for a Polaris in the store, you actually are better off buying a Polaris because you're getting a free ship with your torpedoes. Being as each of the torpedoes, based off of the UEC cost, is essentially an Avenger. And now you take the Avenger and you buy that many Avengers that you have in your Polaris.
Let's think about this. Yeah. Right now in the store, you can buy... I know, but that's the thing. In the store right now, the biggest torpedo you can buy is a size 9. And let's say each one is, what, 70,000, which is $70 US worth? The Polaris has size 10, 28 total of those. So at least, even if they were just size 9, that'd be almost $2,000 for your torpedoes.
I don't get why they stuck those torpedoes in the store. It's not like anyone would be stupid enough to buy them. It's like a placeholder.
Oh, my. Oh, it gets even better. Now you have to calculate the number of torpedoes you'll have in your cargo space. Those hulls are wide enough for defense and to haul those torpedoes into the torpedo room, because I'm going to be using that cargo space to store extra torpedoes in, too.
They've talked about forklifts, you know? You don't need one.
Well, you're getting to the point where attacking a Polaris for its torpedoes is actually a viable commercial venture.
Oh, there you go. Pirates are going after the Polarises, EMPing them and stealing all their torps.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Like, yeah, I mean, if you're afraid of going in, like, that's another thing. Like the salvages, the torpedoes. I mean, that costs. You know.
Yeah, it all makes sense now. The Hawk, it's going after all those Polarises in mass groups and like going off and stealing those torpedoes. It all makes sense now.
You're making me think of the third J.J. Abrams universe, Star Trek, right now, with all of those little tiny swarm vessels.
Oh, yeah. That's really neat. How that system. It was like a hive system, right? Like they were all connected to that one guy, whatever he wanted. That's pretty neat. Yeah. Oh, well. All right. So, what else?
Well, we got questions.
Well, you want to talk about that human cannon?
Yeah.
Oh.
Human cannon.
Well, what do you guys think it is? They've mentioned before human cannons on the Caterpillar modules. So that's my kind of guess on where it's kind of going. What do you guys think?
Well, because I studied the Prowler was technically the third ship I've ever bought. And I studied the heck out of it, and they actually introduced that concept also on the Prowler when you read the jump point, I think. And it was stating that similar to, I guess, sorry, I'm a big fan of the Halo universe, but similar to the ODST system, but at ships, where they actually have pods that people can get in, and it's like a missile-guided, basically pod. Obviously, it doesn't explode. That'd be kind of awkward. And it goes to basically your enemy capital ship, whatever, and I'm assuming it locks onto the lands, and basically they can probably EVA or get in some way. But I'm thinking it's something like that.
I have to agree with that. I thought about pods and actually sort of, you know, sending a person off in a pod of some sort. Whether that has to do with boarding or not, I'm not sure.
I think it's the Prowler, but then again, I do have hopes for some other ship to actually have it besides maybe a Caterpillar. Like, I'd like to actually see some sort of drop ship that is maybe not like the Prowler, but I don't know, something to launch like that. A dedicated like drop pod or something would be interesting for like planets. Think about it. If you could drop an entire group of Marines on the planet, that would be even even better if you're taking out an outpost or something.
Yeah, I mean that would be neat. I mean orbital, like, oh yeah. I mean, I would like. I've always dreamed of, especially in the sci-fi universe and Star System, like any orbital kind of system, whether it's like bombardment or just like that, like ODST drop, or just like, and you know, you drop your army right there or your soldiers. That'd be pretty awesome.
Have you ever read the Starship Trooper books? Not actually looked at not the movie, but the books. They actually do that, and that has always been something I've dreamed of.
Really?
Like that.
Oh,
yes, and
so cool.
And they're in power armor too. But that's another thing I'd like to see in Star Citizen is power armor drop pod.
Well, we do
Yeah,
have pods in Star Citizen. We have escape pods, whether it's from the Connie or the Javelin with its, hundreds and hundreds of pods. Not maybe that many, but those little triangles in the center. Those should be the escape pods. I'd be very happy if you would in some way be able to maneuver them so they could breach atmosphere and probably land. I think that would make a lot of sense. It would probably be an extremely expensive land drop because you'd have to replace all of them afterwards. But being able to have that as an option, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, every time. I agree. All right. So can anyone see the Twitch chat? Because I think Jay
I can
Black
read the whole thing.
Jay
Black, you all previously discussed how most human-involved combat scenarios in the PU would be brief, one-sided affairs. This added risk, on top of the prevalent AI, seems to be considerably endanger low-security space. Do you all believe that low-sec and the profitability gained from risk in general will unfairly favor larger orgs?
Well, that really depends on who's in the combat. Like, what's the ship in when they rock up to kill you? Like,
I think human versus human. I think when people see a fair fight, they'll realize that both sides lose, and since they're in it for either profit or gain, they will just back off because that's essentially force projection for you. But then when one person finds an opportunity at the expense of another, they will take advantage of it. And that's how all things work in real life or otherwise.
I think the only exception to that will be when it's something like an area. So say there's an area that's got a high concentration of resources and you've got a base built near to it, they may have to, expend some of their ships to dislodge you from that location or even attempt to dislodge you from that location. But even then, if you look at in other P versus P games, they'll wait till you're offline or when they have the best advantage to attack.
But the second part of the question, do you believe that low sec and the profitability gained from risk in general will unfairly favor larger orgs? I don't think so, because smaller orgs will still be able to stay in relatively safe areas and have the NPCs be part of that NPC faction, which will push back and help protect them if they get unfairly targeted. They just have to be a little bit tougher than regular NPCs, and then they become unfavorable targets from players. Because when they can just target NPCs that have far less defenses, they're of course going to pick the low-hanging fruit. But if you're talking about high-risk sec and large orgs having advantages, of course they will. It's no different from any other MMO that has endgame raid content. The best groups who have all the skills and the resources to be able to tackle those areas, they're going to reap those rewards.
Yeah, because just like you were saying, I have to really agree with that, Hayes, and I actually preached that when I talked about military engagement, that you don't want to engage a force that's generally equal to your force, because again, what are you gaining? You're wasting so many resources and you're risking so much to not gain, to hardly gain anything. It's okay, I just got another, maybe if they're as big as us, that's gonna be a lot of resources, but you're gonna risk everything just to get that, whereas you always want to put yourself in the more advantaged position, and that's just how it's gonna have to be.
Well, the thing is, everyone's forgetting about is they compare Eve, and it's a great comparison. But remember, NPCs it being the larger percentage. There's no way a large org is truly going to be able to dominate. We've talked about this in a few of our episodes before, and that's where I really think there's no way it's going to be unfair, because there's no way for a large org to dominate.
Yeah.
Even if it's based on the player count or in a local area, but I think they'll try and weed that out. It's going to be more based around tactics and planning, and things will come into it over time. Like, people are not going to take risks where they know that they're going to put themselves in harm's way. We're going to start to see things form like cargo runs and people working together in teams. Like we've already suggested, things like having the Hammerhead and the Polaris working together to, say, copy an Orion mining and etc. Stuff like that. It's not going to be so... it's going to become transparent. You're going to learn what to do over time.
Well, one thing I do want to mention is you will get people who are those I will attack everything, rabid mouth, like foaming at the mouth people, but those people are eventually not going to be able to afford what they're doing. And that is actually going to be the big thing. You're going to see people like that, but you shouldn't have to worry about them too much because they'll work themselves out. And I also fully expect CIG to actually create Arena Commander in a way where you can actually do like your Polaris, Idris's, Javelins. I actually fully see them doing a small system where you can actually do combat without actually risking your stuff. Because there's going to be people that want to do that, but this will put it in an environment where they're not actually ruining, well, I've just lost this ship for the next month.
Those PMC groups will want fair fights, a challenge against another team to prove which one is the most skilled and dominant, where they pit, equal sort of resources against each other to see who can come out on top. And Arena Commander is the perfect place for that because it doesn't cost them anything in game, doesn't cost them any resources, and they can get straight into the action straight away. So I can see Arena Commander being probably a lot more popular for some of those groups than perhaps even the PU, because they can get those epic, amazing sort of battles on a regular basis and hone their skills against odds that are normally would always be avoided in the PU.
All right, we got any more questions before we head off?
Yes. Merlin says, not sure if this was covered. For Patrol, which ship would you recommend now that we know it's the Hammerhead versus Polaris for protecting an Endeavour convoy?
Well, we kind of went over that and kind of said they work really well together, and they kind of cancel each other out.
I would say, though, with an Endeavour, I would actually just, if you had to pick one, I would easily pick up the Hammerhead. Because just placing that there, you talked me into it, Execute.
Yeah, I agree. If you have specifically the Endeavour, I should have counted that point. I didn't take that in. The Endeavour's going to do a lot of sitting around, depending on which modules you use on it. Obviously, if you're doing, if you look at the way it's structured, even though the hell is the name of the one with the one that can, it's like the telescope thing on it. Like it seems to sit and look at things rather than go to them. So it's moving a lot, so it's the better option.
So Ticonderoux asks us, what do you guys think? Which is more useful combat vessel? The Vanguard Harbinger, Redeemer, or Retaliator? They are all similarly priced.
Again, it depends what you're doing. See, the Harbinger is more like a fighter bomber, as in it'd be best at bombing other fighters. If you look at the is the chat frozen? Oh no, there we go. Sorry, it just froze for me. The Redeemer is more of a gunboat, so it's going to be short range. It's kind of like a mini Hammerhead, is what I see the Redeemer, and the Retaliator bomber. Well, obviously that's capital class, so you got to pick your fight there. Do you want to be a capital class bomber, a fighter bomber, or a bit of a gunboat? Probably the Redeemer's in the middle, and then the other two are at the opposite ends of that. So they've all got their place. You just got to pick which one and tailor it to suit.
I do have to say, though, if you're looking at value, I would actually pick up the Redeemer because I have a feeling it's going to grow in size and it's going to become a much better bang for your buck. And if you asked me about 6 months ago, I would have said the Vanguard Harbinger because of the buck system being one ship with like 50,000 different cool things that you can do with it. And that's kind of been thrown out the window. So
if you could pick up a Warden and a couple of bucks on the grey market, yeah, but I'm pretty sure the price of those bucks are going to skyrocket now. But I've already got my Warden and my bucks, and that's probably why I'm going to keep it, because it's 3 ships in one. But yeah, they're probably the better value. To be honest, when I look at the Retaliator now, I always question what its role is going to be, knowing the Polaris is around. It probably takes less crew, but again, it's
Retaliator. Well, I mean, you gotta look at it as a price point. I mean, it's a bomber. It's not a freaking capital ship. So I mean, that's like saying, okay. Well, you know what I'm generous.
It's a drop ship.
It provides so much more ordnance than Harbinger.
Anything you want it to be.
Like
it's an entry level cargo.
Okay, so like 3 S5 or S6 torpedoes for Harbinger versus like 6 size 9. It can't even compare.
But Retaliator is also designed to take on capital ships.
Yeah,
where,
but
as I said,
the Retaliator can also
be more,
cargo,
taking on other fighters with the bomber.
dropship, you know, multi-role. This is like a really good all things ship. The Harbinger just really doesn't compare. Like, you know, that's where I see.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, sure, it's like a carrier based bomber, like maybe like Starfarer, like kind of that class. But it's like, why wouldn't you just get a Gladiator? You know what I mean? It's more smaller, you know. I mean, it's like, you know, and size does matter, because, you know, when you even look at modern base carriers, all the planes on there, even the bigger, larger AWACS ones, their wings fold. They just want to make it, you know, basically make the most out of that space as possible, which I hope they put that into thought when they make like the Idris, because you look at those bays, they're huge, and it's like, nope, 3 ships, and it's like you got to have all this space in between them. I really hope they make it basically.
Honestly, you should be able to fit 3 Vanguards in an Idris. It's got the room.
Oh,
it's got the
does.
cars. It's like,
it's the biggest issue with the Vanguard is there's nowhere will store it except for maybe an Endeavor, and that's kind of like, oh.
I think you'll fit in an Idris. And it'll be interesting to finally get that Idris and for us to all see what fits and what sits. You know, it's like, I think we'll fit in things we never thought would ever go.
You might end up actually seeing the Hawks. If the Hawks end up being a slightly decent life fighter, imagine if you could squeeze like twice the number of Hawks in there, just because of the way they fold down.
That's what I'm saying. I know. Merlin's just, there you go. There's your pocket carrier.
And they all get
Merlin's everywhere. Yeah. Can I bring up a quick question real quick? Because Gecko kind of asked it, but I kind of know it. Hey guys, do you think we should get a battleship capital class ship close to the size of a Bengal carrier as a concept? Like, you know, because you got Javelin as a destroyer, and Idris as a frigate, Polaris as a corvette. Battleship? Now, I think we do, but it's a lot bigger than a Bengal. So, you know, the Retribution, maybe. No.
I don't ever want a Bengal. It's too big. I think
I don't before. Either. Yeah, you have. I mean, but you can elaborate. Go on.
One, they'll never sell it to us. Know. 2, it's always going to be persistent, which is a pain in the ass. And 3, it's sort of a human resource - economic drain that I just don't need. It's just too massive. What happens?
It's better to nom it.
When everyone's with their family on a holiday, and then, you know, you leave it undefended and someone steals it, and all that time and effort and everything else you sunk into it is gone. I think it's a horrible idea. It's
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's gonna be like those like those cars nowadays where when you stop, like, they turn off. It's like, okay, we're not using it. Turn everything off. Lights, you don't need those. You got little torches on your freaking suit. There you go.
There's a question there by Jay Black that's about to go off the bottom of the screen if you want to read it, Hayes.
Yep. In a recent town hall, the dev stated that real-time duration for unloading cargo will be balanced to prevent cargo-based operations from being unfairly profitable per unit of time spent. How do you all imagine this could influence profession viability or profit strategies in general? I think he was talking out his ass. Because at the end of the day, yes, if there's one person and they've just got a Hully and they're traveling by themselves and they do cargo, he's not going to earn tons of profit compared to other people, because that would be unfair. But he's still going to earn more for his time. Okay? Because that's just something that's unavoidable due to economies of scale. And it's going to get worse as soon as he goes into a high-sec area and takes a Polaris for his escort with enough people to properly crew it, maybe a couple of fighters, and that's just going to blow everyone else out of the water when it comes to actual profits and earnings. Because if it didn't, then even running a Hully with the most basic of safe missions would not even earn you any profit at all. No one would run these vehicles at all. At the end of the day, what's the point of having big ships? So, you know, I think he was trying to, you know, voice a sort of solution to concerns that people may have, a feeling of unfairness and things like that. But at the end of the day, that's escaping a reality. If they balance this at the lowest level, then you then push it all the way to the highest level, I'm sorry, there's no way the small guys can compete against a highly organized group going into very dangerous space with some of the best defenses and equipment, and bringing economy of scales into the picture. It's just that this guy either not seeing the big picture or he's playing marketing. Anyone else?
That's more on your topic. I don't really know anything.
That's why I filtered it to you, because I know how you feel about cargo. And
I'll go back to
what's the next question?
Wobbly Dog says, my defense team is an Idris, a Polaris, and Eclipse, and the Hammerhead, the only fighting I want my org to do is to defend or land forward airbase. I'd get rid of the Polaris, or am I a dickhead? Sorry, Josh.
I think we kind of went over that already. I think you'd be a bit of a dickhead. You kind of need both. I think they, like, if you look at they're kind of situated in the middle of the fleet, so to speak. So I think the Hammerhead kind of attacks everything under it, and I think the Polaris kind of attacks everything above it, as if you want to put it in really simple terms without going into really niche detail. That's how I see them working, and I see them kind of about on par with each other. And yeah, would you guys kind of agree with that simplified statement? It is simplified.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
I agree.
And I also have to say, if you have to make a choice between one or the other, pick the Polaris hands down.
Yep.
Because it gives you way more versatility than your Hammerhead, and really, it also is more team play oriented.
Yep.
Yeah, for $100 more. I mean, you're already overpaying for your ship. Why not just go $100 more?
I also think if you really had to put the two ships up against each other in a long, sustained fight, I still think the Polaris would probably come out on top. If money wasn't a factor and they could just throw every torpedo at you, I think it would win.
32 chances to get a strike. Are you game?
Well, +2, it'll never just be the Polaris. It'll be a Polaris with a minimum of 2 fighters with it. So you're, and if they're
minimum
playing
of 1, let's be realistic. Like if you've just warped in, you're only going to have the 1. But
well, don't forget. I mean, that means it can service 1 at a time, but you can still have other ones warp with it.
Well,
that's what I.
Yeah, I generally think you are going to have more than 1 with it. But what I'm saying is, if you've just come from a really long warp where the fighter can't actually go it alone type of thing, there are situations where it'll only be 1.
Oh, I see.
That's what I'm trying to say. He said worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is 1. Actually, worst case scenario is none. But,
yeah.
If you're talking about choosing one or the other, the Polaris is a no-brainer. It brings the support, being able to support carrier craft through refueling and rearming. And then has the tactical advantage, and like the turrets on the Polaris is more than any other ship of its class until the Hammerhead came around. It's got half the firepower in turrets, and
it's got missile turrets, and it's got remote missile turrets.
It also has size 5. Don't discount the fact that it has 2 twin size 5 turrets.
Yeah, it's got what's it got? It's got capital class sized auto. What are they called? They're auto turrets or some shit. What are they called?
Oh, the point defense system?
Yeah, point defense. That's it. The point defense turrets. It's got 2 of those, doesn't it?
2 of the automated ones.
Anti-fighter missiles in addition to its torpedoes. A lot of people forget that it has
missiles
and it has actually about the same amount of missile armament as your Hammerhead.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Bam! Asks, I'm not sure if you covered this with the Hammerhead, but out of the 6 turrets, you can AI control 2 of them because of the 2 computers, right?
I thought they were 2 remote turrets.
What happened?
I thought any turret could
I thought AI was able to do any job.
Yeah. They mentioned that if it has a turret, you will be able to buy like the avionics and the stuff for it to turn it into a remote turret. I'm sure it's gonna be balanced, saying like, oh, it's down a size or something. But that'd be awesome. I mean, especially on that ship, just like attack this single turret, and you just got all those ships, just the guns just focused on it.
Well, that'll be amazing because it's a true 3-person ship, And as one person said, it's the best explorer ever because I go out there, I see, I conquer. It's mine.
Mr. Vale
Alien
asks,
species, my
Mr. Vale-
slaves.
Mr. Vale asks about alien species tomorrow. Actually, he's got, what do you think we'll see tomorrow in the Alien and Ground ATV Banner Merchantman update potentially? Question mark.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of sick of the Banner Merchantman, so I'm actually looking forward to hearing things of all the other ships.
What'd you say, Hayes?
Saying snake slap.
Yeah, pretty much.
Look,
I'm just tired of hearing about it.
Oh, we haven't really seen. Well, dude, it's been around. It's one of the longest ships that have been around now without really anything being done. So
they've been working on it because they know that the ship grew in size, and they were looking into it in the style guide. I would not be surprised if they dumped a grey box on us and just said, "Look, this is what we think it's going to be." Because, you know, on the older production schedules, they used to say that the 890 Jump and the Banner Merchantman and the Carrack are supposed to go in production very late this year, which is sometime around this time period. So if they had some very early block out, like they showed us with the Carrack, but for the Banner, I think that would be about right, and I think that would be amazing.
I think getting back to Mr. Ville's question, I think we'll probably potentially see that tank that we were promised by the end of the year.
That's right.
As for an alien ship, I would have. I don't know if they'll show us a new one, but I would have liked to have seen something like, say, something from the Cyan. Maybe that. What was that ship that we a cargo vessel from the Cyan? Was that what we were talking about a couple of days ago?
Oh, I don't think we're gonna see a new ship. I just think we're gonna see updates on the current ships that they have on the store.
Well, it's been stated that we're going to get one more ground vehicle before the end of the year, and that screams a perfect time to release it, unless we see it at a holiday live sale. But
we might see.
I was gonna say I thought it had to do with something with Drake, was it, or something? Because it was on their day. I don't think they have anything.
It's a tumbril vehicle, and we know it's got a tank track. That's what we know about it.
Progress on some of those other alien ships, like the Defender, the Scythe, and Glavery Works, and the Blade.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Defender.
I was hoping something on the Blade, the Defender, and you guys never mentioned my favorite ship of all, the Prowler. So I had to,
that's
at least
near
name
production.
Want to see.
I know it's not.
Yeah.
Where's my Tavaran ship?
The Merchantman. We'll just do that to you in your Flights of Fantasy.
Damn it. Okay.
That's so cruel, Vulture. It says, "Yo, Hayes, you got off some hair so an execute can evolve."
You have a good friend there.
Mr. Vale's actually saying that he reckons the next concept sale is based around Consolidated Outland, but if you actually go have a look at the icons, mate, you'll notice that the one that was on today actually had an Aegis logo on it that was warped. But if you actually go have a look on the one that you're talking about for Consolidated Outland, it's not Consolidated Outland. It's actually the UEE. So we don't quite know what ship that's for.
Ty Condero asks... Oh, you go ahead, Dyson.
I was just going to say, I think expect something from Asparia. And I'm going to say... I would say the two most likely options are something that's going to be Vandal related, because Squadron 42 is coming out sometime, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's another Vandal ship of some sort. Maybe a Vandal bomber. Just saying, because they have fighters.
See them ever selling it to us, though. Yeah.
Money.
There's been when they did the Blade, there was a huge kickback because they'd already promised that they weren't going to sell any more Vandal ships. I'm hoping they've kind of learnt their lesson and don't sell any more Vandal ships, because I just think it was a bad idea.
I'm just saying, if you look at the blurred image, it really does look like something like a wing of some sort. Like, kind of like the Vandal-style curved wings. But then again, the other ship we need is, we need another science vessel, and it'd be great to see something from the Xi'an.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. A Zion science vessel, I kind of reckon that'd be cool. But it's not that I disagree with you. I just hope you're wrong when it comes to the Vandal stuff, if that makes sense.
I don't trust CIG to do that, and I also think it would be a very interesting idea, because that's the one thing that's currently missing in the lineup, and it'd also be something near flight ready, so it'd be easy for them to just toss in as a sale and say, hey, look, this is going to be out soon. Pipe Squadron 42.
When are they doing happy hour this week? Because it's usually about this time.
I think they might
Is
actually
it?
skip it.
It's usually Friday. Yeah, happy
Yeah,
hour is
'cause-
usually Fridays.
Well, yeah, because they were going to be doing the happy hour this week and picking the next Drake ship too.
Oh, that's right. No, they did 2 ATVs. They did the one which was
Disco
just
Lando was
basically the
talking
burn
about
down.
this a little bit. There's 3 options. Yeah, he was talking about it on the Astropub. I was reading the chat, and he said there's going to be 3 options. You don't get to write in options, and you choose out of those 3 options. So I'm assuming
And there was
they
no
already
capital
have
ships.
something
No capital.
drawn up.
What would you say, Hayes?
The 3 concepts that you get to vote on, none of them are capital class ships.
Yeah, I don't. Me and you have talked about this before, but I just don't see Drake doing a capital class size ship. They are the Polvo construction company. They like the Caterpillar in my ballpark is almost too big for them. So I think it'll be what was one of the ones we said, a salvage ship. I think that's a really good warranted one, and I know you came up with one, Dyson, when we were talking about this the other day. What was the other one? Salvage.
I said we need some sort of Tavaran ship of some sort.
No. When we were talking specifically about Drake, I think you said science, actually, like a drug lab ship. For
Oh
Drake.
yes, I was thinking of your having like a Breaking Bad drug lab. But basically, what they do is they advertise it as this is a science vessel for people out on the outlands, and nod, wink, wink. Oh, you can grow things here.
Yeah, and the last one I'd probably chuck in there would be a dedicating smuggler. Like if you were going to think of a smuggling manufacturer, it would have to be Drake, surely.
Drake first, yeah.
We need more like Millennium Falcon bolt holes because that's something we're really missing.
Yeah, we really are. And you can't say the Terrapin because I mean it is pretty good and it's a tank, but we need something that's just like, oh, that garbage, and that's like, I mean, but you know, look what I did in this garbage. So.
Okay, take on there, Snake. Feedback.
What?
With all these multi-crew ships being bought, I sometimes doubt whether most orgs can truly man them properly. Usually everyone likes to pilot. A lot will depend on the NPC AIs, or am I wrong?
I think you're right, and it also depends on the group. Yeah. That's a wait-and-see question there, mate.
I'll put a little prediction into there. I think people are definitely going to be able to run their ships with AI, but are they going to be a match for people who are like, a third to 50% actual real people at those stations? I think this is what's gonna happen.
Everyone, basically just like what he said, everyone's gonna have these big, gigantic multi-crew ships. They're gonna take them out for a spin, and when it comes down to the actual game itself, where everything matters, it's like they're gonna try it. Oh, I'll just fill it with NPCs, and then they're gonna see eventually what one with actual people can use, and it's like, should probably rethink about this because of course there is no true meta for this game yet. No one really we're still in alpha, so we all know that disclaimer subject to change. So I know eventually it's going to take some time because again the scale on this game is huge for people to understand, okay, this is how things are done, this is why it's done, because this is the best way of doing it.
Well, I think as far as ships go, you're going to see a optimal crew of just being mainly your shield operator, your pilots, maybe someone for radio, and one other person for repair. So I think if you look at a lot of these military ships, you're going to have NPCs filling the roles that are not necessarily an advantage. Because I actually think turrets, no matter how fun they make them, is really going to be a waste of time to put someone in there versus in some other supporting role on there, whether it be in a fighter, another ship backing it up, because the more ships, more firepower, even if you're not as accurate. Think about it. If you have one Hammerhead that's well crewed versus the same amount of people spread in 3, it's a no-brainer.
I've got to see, though, that the firing on that Hammerhead is impressive enough. I wonder how much better having 5 real people in massive turrets will be compared to an AI one. I'd love to pit them against each other and see just how much more effective that's going to be. But I think in most cases I agree with you, though. NPCs are going to be the realm of turrets because most other jobs will benefit from someone who can actually think and respond and react and adjust themselves to the situation. It's something that AIs will never be able to replicate.
Yeah, exactly. It's a balancing factor. By the way, you guys, I hope you guys can hear me fine. I kind of put it on push to talk. Anyways, so I think it's a balancing factor as far as like, yeah, the human element can make those very like quick decisions, and it's just the human in general. But it's like at the same time, if you just have an autonomous vehicle, it takes out the human element as far as making mistakes. Maybe they gotta go real quick. Maybe like something happened to them and now they can't see. So I think it'll just depend. I mean, what kind of situations you want. Because I think purely turrets, I think it'd be perfectly fine to have autonomous turrets. You know what I mean? They don't have to take breaks. You could step out of your seat real quick. You guys can go handle things. Like eat dinner or something. When you still have the safety of all those turrets monitoring the entire area.
But if you're piloting a ship, that's a whole nother bag. I wouldn't trust that to an NPC ever.
Oh no, I'm talking about like replacing it with a computer. I'm not talking about replacing it with an NPC. I think so.
I don't think CIG will ever let you take piloting into a computer, because at that point in time, you're now getting into the realm of one guy being able to control an entire fleet, and that is completely, in my opinion, anti-Star Citizen.
I reckon you will be able to, actually, on simple things like cargo runs. I reckon they will be able to do it so you can escort them yourself or whatever. I think they will. If they're already making the AI to do 90% of the work or 90% of the stuff in the universe, there's no reason that can't do any tasks that you need it to do. I can see where you're coming from a gameplay perspective, but there's no...
It takes away
it's not
game
plausible
at that point.
It's not implausible, sorry.
Hayes, can you go to the guy in Twitch and read off whatever question that was? Someone passed.
Yeah, I've got some older questions. I'll get through them first. Merlin asks, Ordnance Hardpoints article, they explain missile racks size 4 equals missiles number 1 is equal to missile size 4. So how will that work with Hammerhead rack size 3? The math does not add up. It's in the article.
Wait, what does it say?
The way I read on the table, like for the stats database on the Hammerhead, it has 3 racks of size 3 missiles. I'm not sure how many missiles per rack that is, but that's basically the size of missiles that's on there, and the number of racks. Anyone else?
I'll have to look it up, but I mean, usually, like I got the missile rack stuff down, but I mean, they said they're size 3 missiles, right? And so yes. I mean, but if they have size 4, is he saying they're size 4 racks? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
We might want to table this and just PM him later.
Yeah, I think he's asking what size the missiles are, and like I'm pretty sure
they said they're 32 size 3 missiles. So if they're size 4 racks, that just means the rack has 2 size 3 missiles. It's a pyramid effect essentially with those.
Yeah. What's the next one?
Okay. Jay Black asked, there was some criticism yesterday regarding COG's description of the Terrapin as a loner ship. God, don't I know it? I was one of them. My interpretation was that the single bed would make a second crew member counterproductive.
Yep.
Yeah, unless you want a hot bunk, which is another thing.
So
but
basically,
perhaps you could rotate them as solo operators. Hot bunk. Ultimately, I believe the Terrapin is a missed opportunity for dual boxing. Could you all briefly comment on this?
They stated yesterday in the ATV that it is designed primarily as a solo craft. If you wanted to make it a long-range vessel and take a second person with you, you could, but it limits the length that you can do that. And I totally agree with that. So what they've done is limited how long it can go out and about by limiting it to one bed.
I don't think that's much
and
of
you
an
can still see
there, if you bring it as part of the fleet.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that is what I agree. Like, you need to bring other things with it for it to be able to do those extra roles. Is what I'm. Sorry, I thought that was automatically. Yeah, but that's what I meant. So yeah, if you want to go out on your own and just do the lone gun thing, yeah, you can do that. But as soon as you want to work with others, you're going to need support craft.
Well, and you might be able to get by with 2 people in it, rotating out shifts. Because you'll probably at all times, if you're in dangerous space, never want to be in bed by yourself out there. You want someone else sitting there, at least keeping an eye out what's out there.
Yeah. If you're going out for an engagement for an hour or two people. If you're going out for the entire day, you're on your own. It's that simple. And that even covers over into things like the Hammerhead as well. Like, you know how you're worried about the range. Yeah, you can go really long range if you want. But really, it's the type of ship you're going to go out to stop a problem. It's like, if the Polaris is the attack craft, this is the defense craft. They're two sides of the same coin. Sorry if I've kind of hijacked the question about the Terrapin there, but that
personally,
same thing there.
I think the Terrapin is one of those ships that is always better off with a second person in it than going solo. And they tried to sell it as a ship that would be more likely and better off going as a solo person. And I am dead set against that idea. It's just like when they tried to sell the Javelin as something, you know, that only did one thing and it only had one purpose and it was only really a destroyer. It's like,
well, it's because they understand people are based very antisocial and they just want to see how much they can do on their own before having to be like, can you help?
The marketing
can you help me?
Is disconnected from either the original concept or the true purpose and strength of the thing they're trying to sell. And so, yeah, it's just like, it's one of those things again where they said all this about the Terrapin, but in my mind, they sold it in the opposite direction of its greatest strength.
Well, that's the thing that makes, in my opinion, the Super Hornet so great is not necessarily the extra firepower, but the fact that you can put some of those extra modules in there and maybe actually have a true AWACS scenario or a really true...
And a second operator.
Yes. Which it makes a lot more sense because it's better to have one person flying and one person scanning than one person flying out somewhere, stopping, scanning, oh my, trouble, and then have to transfer over and go like, it just seems like a lot of a mess and a lot more room for error.
Merlin asks, Shipyard article about turrets. They talked about point defense turrets. How will that work in your opinion? Need 2 times before called avionics module now? Computer dash blade, 1-time turret to activate PDT.
Well, we don't really know because point defense probably work a little bit differently from turrets because, well, they've got a different name for starters. Otherwise, they are just fundamentally a turret, aren't they? So
I think that's the direction they've gone, though. Like, everything that had dedicated point defense systems has now evaporated and turned into turrets.
Yeah, but also point defense.
And the Phoenix, they're turrets now.
It's probably set for what it shoots and prioritizes, though. That's where I think the difference is going to be is not with... There's no fundamental difference between a PDS turret and another turret. It's going to be what is it set priority for. And, like, if you have a fighter bouncing around here nearby or a missile, it's going to shoot the missile instead of the fighter.
Yeah, I agree with Dyson. I think that's how they're.
I'm sure that's something you can set, like in the system. Like, I mean, it's like other games I play. You can
probably
like
prioritize
prioritize what you can shoot.
And you put NPC in a turret. You know, you've got a contract with them. Every time they shoot a missile down, you give them a peanut. But there's nothing if they shoot a fighter.
Well, I personally see PDS system as something that I wish they left as dedicated because. One thing I would have liked to have seen is a PDS system that actually is kind of instead of shooting it. Like I like some of the new modern stuff where it's like it aims it and it tries to the laser and it detonates it. I think that would actually be really cool to have a continuous laser for a point defense system instead of like your auto laser or individual shot. Something that becomes more effective over time, especially with something like a large torpedo. Which would make it 10 times more effective than trying to ping off of it with repeaters.
Yeah.
You're saying so like making it totally customized. We're using literally a mining laser as your turret weapon.
Well, I'm thinking
modern day lasers. They're designed to shoot down ordnance.
Yes, and I think something like that would be interesting because that could actually have potential to be way more effective. At especially if you have a continuous stream of making sure you hit it, hold on to it. And go.
But then the trade-off would be that maybe they're not as effective against fighters with shields.
Yeah,
so,
or they're require way more power. Exactly. So you got these laser repeater cannons, or
I'd actually say less power.
I think they require more power.
Yeah, well, to run the computer. And the other thing is, you know, maybe E-War can then be affected to bring down your PDS, which leaves you vulnerable to then missiles and torpedoes because they've hacked your computer, in which case a manned turret with an NPC wouldn't have succumbed to the same problem. Yeah, you know, they could balance these things with lasers. I can see that.
Yeah. Oh, well, they'll have to be, because don't forget it's still a game, so they have to make it fun, and they have to make it like a game. You know, yes,
Rock, paper,
this is the realistic. Yeah, exactly. This is what in real life what would happen. Let's just diet a little bit here.
It was really interesting to hear that in ATV today, where it's a line that I've often agreed with from game design, where the guy said, "The enemy of fun is often realism." Yeah. No, that's true. That's like the reason. I mean, this is the reason why I always say why I'm relatively good at flying in this game is I play a lot of like aircraft flying, like modern day fighter games, like even more realistic ones. And it's agreed. Like you have so much fun on the fake ones. Like, oh my god, this is cool. I'm dogfighting with this guy, and it's so unreal, but it's so awesome. And then the realistic ones, like, oh, you have to do this. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you're trying to land like that. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm just saying I agree. And I'm sure you agree more than anything, Execute, since you're the closest to a developer as we have here. Probably the only one.
People like ultra realism in games until they actually have ultra realism in games. The best example I have of this is actually Hellion, which was a ultra. It was a horrible docking simulator, trying to dock
realism
and do anything.
Salt.
But that's the thing. People ask for realism, but they never want true realism. They want fun.
And unfortunately, some people misconstrued realism for fun, but that's what it is. That's why where you see a game like Counter-Strike will always be more popular than, say, a game like the older Rainbow Sixes, where you used to lay out your plans and stuff like that. You used to be able to stand on the door and throw a flashbang in around your shoulder and stuff like that. And now the newer Rainbow Six is a lot more simplified and a lot more like Counter-Strike Source, because it's just more fun. It's that simple. All right, any more questions?
Yes, Merlin asks, other hard points, shipyard article, you can switch Terrapin's radar dish out for a mining laser or a tractor beam to allow basic mining or salvage, but have no discrete way of processing it like cargo. Did they really say that, or did they shoot that down? I forgot.
I don't think they're going to put that in.
I think they went against that idea and actually said, no, Terrapin can only have the scanning dish. There's no plans to have actual utility mounts that you can put in other things. I'm not sure about that, but I remember hearing something about that.
It sure sounded like that's been shot down based off of everything that they've been saying recently.
I think they shot it down. I'm pretty sure about that. Can't shoot me. Question: can you own a Bengal, or will the owner be the player who is fighting it?
You can own it, but you have to maintain it, and it's just a shell. So once you kind of don't look after it and you lose it, someone else can own it, and it's persistent. So if you log off, it needs to be cared for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's going to be a huge money sink. So
it's a white elephant.
You'd have to be in a hell of a combat to make it worth it, wouldn't you?
It's sort of like you buy the white elephant, and then it's like, how are we going to feed this?
Yeah.
you buy the white elephant and you actually give it to someone, because that's the entire point of the white elephant. They have to take care of it and everything, and it's something that you give. And I think a Bengal is one of those things. If you don't nom with your reclaimers and make money that way, you'd actually be better served giving it to someone and making them have to maintain it and watch their org lose money.
I could potentially see it's something that you pick up temporarily. So, say you pick it up for a week just to do a bunch of attacks and then dump it so you don't have to keep maintaining it. Yeah, and strip of it all its materials, and then someone else has to come along and pick up the, the way if you played Ark, in Ark they have a thing called the Titanosaur, and you can tame it, but you only own it for 3 days until it dies. And it's just like the be-all and end-all dinosaur of the entire game. I see it a little bit like that. You pick it up, use it briefly, and then it's like a nuclear bomb. And then once you've paid for it, it does what it needs to do, but you can't sustain it.
That's actually a really clever gameplay mechanic, because not only does that help bring balance to things, so you can have an org say, well, we've now destroyed the UEE in this system, we're going to hold this system continuously from them because they have to now escalate force ridiculously.
Mm-hmm.
It allows opportunities.
Yep. And if you're seriously outgunned, you could put some resources into taking the Bengal and fighting back and doing a lot of damage to, say, a ridiculously big org that's bigger than you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's another question there by Jay Black. I think that's probably our last one for today, unless we get some more in real quick.
I would say last one because it's just late.
Yep. You want to read that one out, someone then?
Hey, let's go.
Alright, I was waiting for Dyson to take the bait. Question. Jay Black. Since planets, while huge, are much smaller than open space, I imagine that scanning planets from space, even with powerful sensors for points of interest, would be at least partially occluded to help legitimize ground utility vehicles. Can you all speculate how radar mechanics from space will interact with planets?
So what does that question pertain to? So like the difference between scanning for like life versus scanning for like any piece of hardware, vehicle.
The way I see it is you could find something of interest in orbit and your spaceship can pick it up, but you don't know how good it is or how much of it. You can say that there's iron ore in this area and it's coming up on the signal on the radar, but we need to send a crew down there to get a better to prospect and to sort of like get better readings, maybe take soil samples and do some better scanning equipment like on the ground and run it over an area.
Yeah,
so,
I
like,
agree.
It'd be like a stepping stone. So like you from orbit you'd determine where you want to go, you'd go down there and then figure out what it actually was after using ground vehicles. Does that make?
Yeah, that's like anything. Yeah. It's just like a
Well-
general sense of what you're looking for detecting. It's like, okay, but obviously you need to get there to see exactly what it is. And I mean, because that's the adventure.
I would actually say sensors are going to be a little bit different than what you're saying. And I see it as, what are you equipping it for what are you searching for? Like the Hornet Tracker, I don't see being able to find ore, but maybe something like a Terrapin might be able to, because it's able to do it. And I think when you're looking at planets, any of the ships that have your sensors array, and if they can scan an asteroid field, they can scan on a planet 10 times easier. I think vehicles, you'll easily be able to locate. I think outside of that, it's whatever you have your sensors equipped for. Like the Carrack, I think will be decent for jump points, but not necessarily for whole planets. Maybe your Aquila or Dur, which is more of your planet side ships. I think something like that would be what they would go for, but it depends on what you have equipped.
I definitely think there's going to be specific use case scanners. Like if you want to do mining, you can't just use a general purpose scanner. You want to have mining scanning equipment on that ship. You'll be able to swap out the different types.
I actually think you will have a general purpose scanner, but it won't be as good as, say, something that's a tailored scanner, as an example. And we've kind of seen that already with the modules and other engine components. I don't know what else to call that, but you know what I'm talking about. So different scanners will have different, you got your military, your civilian, your industrial, all that type of things. So they'll be tailored to what you're looking for.
Well, it's gonna have to, because you gotta remember the game mechanic. I mean, it has to be balanced in some way. That's almost like they're gonna have to incorporate a system where maybe you can scan really far in a given direction, or
but it'll be really narrow.
Exactly.
And then you'll have a really wide one, but it's only very short. And then
It's kind of like Star Trek. Think Star Trek, where you have your long range sensors, which give you X data, and you have your shorter range sensors, which tend to seem to have better detail. But the big thing is, I think if a ship can scan through an asteroid field in space, space is way bigger than a planet. I think planetary scanning is not going to be as undetailed as you're predicting. I think I can be in orbit and get precise detail.
You'll have
get around that with atmosphere interfering with sensors and things,
And you'll have different types of scanners. So you might get a scanner that's, say, a cross-section one, but then you might get a scanner that scans heat or X-rays through a rock. So if you break it down into components, you'll get something, say, like a lens that'll do the scope. You'll get something like the type, as in what the type of material you're looking for. And then also the actual mechanics. So is it a cross-section scanner? Is it an X-ray scanner? Is it
the software side too? The computer will be able to identify different sort of things that would
reason to have like two carriers.
Or like a processor, so it does it quicker or slower, or so if you're taking time to scan and it's doing a sweep as an example, it may do it faster. And if you slow the sweep right down and it takes a really goddamn long time, it'll find freaking everything, but it might take you a week to do the scan. That's exaggeration, but you get what I'm trying to say.
That's okay. It's funny when you're saying that. I just think of a vacuum. You're vacuuming a whole area. If you go really quick over it, you're just going like, we'll scratch the surface. But if you go
you'll miss some of the dirt if you go too fast.
I could actually imagine a week, because I could imagine you placing a ship in a location where you can actually scan maybe the planet and the moon at the same time. And taking a week to do all that.
I can see that, yeah. But I have to definitely agree with the amount of like sheer amount of in space like there is, compared to like a planet. Because even now, I have to bring it up. Can I? Yeah, I can. Anyway, in 3.0, even though they're moons, they're huge if you try to explore the whole thing. But, like, literally, you can see a marker on the opposite side for an outpost, and it's like, 500, kilometers away or something like that. But, like, literally the space between parts in space, it's like 2, 3, 4 a million, I'm sure, kilometers.
Yeah.
Space is huge. Space is crazy.
Scientifically, it's easier to scan something that's a solid object than something that is empty space. It's just pure science. So when you're scanning the surface of a planet, you're going to get a lot more detail than when you, say, scan an asteroid field that's just a bunch of rocks.
That might be a problem. You might get too much data. You need to narrow that down.
Exactly. Well, that's where you have two people actually running your Terrapin, so you can actually have one person flying and one person taking all this time to actually understand what you're looking at.
Mm. Still a little bit of a waiting game there to see what tailors out with the gameplay, and that's why I think waiting for gameplay is it's the big things I'm waiting for more than anything, because it's just going to dictate so much of what comes after. And it's the same thing as modules. I don't think they're showing us a lot of the modules because then they've got a little bit of the gameplay, and they know that it's going to piss people off if they release a certain module and the module they wanted is not with that ship, that then they'll burn the ship, so to speak. So. Hayes, what are you doing?
Hayes, I don't want to.
You can't look at Skype while you're.
I got a message. I'm like, what's this?
Well, I hate to say this. I think is a good time to actually wrap this up, and I do want to say, Discord guys, we got a Discord. We heard your pleas, and we actually have a nice little section in there with episode suggestions, questions, and of course, Hayes is always apt to talk about CCUs.
If you have any CCUs regarding the sale, I can answer questions in detail with a big back and forth. So, if you guys want any sort of CCU-based information, that's the proper place to do it. Bring it to our Discord, and we'll help you out as much as we can over the duration of the sale.
Yep. Just dropping the link right there for you.
Awesome.
Well, I think it wraps it up for today. There's always tomorrow, and tomorrow is it Aliens and ground vehicles?
Aliens and ground vehicles, yeah.
Aliens and ground vehicles. Aliens
so hopefully,
New
less
tank.
Banner Merchantmans and more everything else.
I'm actually more excited for tomorrow than I was for today. Other than,
likewise.
If you take away the Hammerhead, this Alien and ground vehicle is the day I was looking forward to until the Hammerhead showed up.
It's something we never really crossed, or we should have probably talked about, but we won't bother now, is how there's too many damn Aegis ships, but alright.
More.
That's
They're beautiful. There's not enough.
It's because
I shouldn't have opened that can of worms.
Anyway, as usual, if you want to put any questions to us, do it in the YouTube chat. We always like to read and we will respond to them. I think that's it. I'll catch you around. Thank you for watching and see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Have fun.
Bye-bye.
Oh, you're a worry snake.